Welcome to No Place Like Home, the radio show, coming to you on WRXB 1590 AM, 96.5 FM, and Pinellas County Connection TV. This program is presented to you as an opportunity to hear information that can help you fulfill the dream of owning your very own home. We also share information about upcoming special events and programs to help you enjoy the good life in Pinellas County, as well as other items of interest. The sponsor of this program is the Housing Finance Authority of Pinellas County, which offers the first-time home buyers program. I'm Carmen Lemberg alongside Julian Hills, your host for today's show. Good morning, Julian. How are you today?
Can you believe it's already March?
No.
March 2017. It's my favorite time of the year.
I do really enjoy this time of the year. The temperatures are awesome.
Yes.
Just beautiful to be outside.
The days get longer.
That's always nice, too.
Isn't it?
I don't like driving home in the dark.
I know, me neither. Well, hopefully you guys aren't driving in the dark today, but we're going to try to bring some light to it today by talking about a very important topic that you might not even think about. However, it's something that may affect all of us at one time or another.
Exactly.
Fair housing. Next month, April, is Fair Housing Month. Coming up in a few moments, we'll speak to representatives with the Office of Human Rights. Our guests are Paul Valenti, Director, and Mark Esparza, Equal Opportunity Coordinator. Before we begin our discussion, Carmen, I know you have a message from our sponsor, the Housing Finance Authority.
Thank you, Julian. The Housing Finance Authority of Pinellas County is offering the First-Time Homebuyers Program, your key to home ownership, helping people in Pinellas, Pasco, and Polk counties make their dreams of owning a home a reality. The First-Time Homebuyers Program is for individuals who have never owned a home, have not owned a home in the last 3 years, or veterans. The HFA offers a low rate on its 30-year fixed-rate mortgage, and we can help you with down payment and closing costs as well. To get your key to home ownership, visit www.pinellascounty.org/HFA, as in Housing Finance Authority. On the left-hand side of the page, there's pictures. The top one says, First-Time Home Buyers, What to Know. Start there and go down to the next 3 pictures. Keep watching for updates on our new program that's coming soon, Housing Floridians. For more information or comments about the show, you can call us at 727-223-6419, or you can email us at newhome@pinellashfa.com. Julian?
Well, Carmen, it's my pleasure to introduce our guest today, like I said, and it's quite a list. So bear with me on this one because, we'll see how good my brain's working today. Our first guest is Paul Valenti, Director, Office of Human Rights. Paul became Director of Pinellas County's Office of Human Rights in January 2012. Before joining Pinellas County, he served as a manager of Lee County's Office of Equal Opportunity, a position he assumed in June of 2005. Prior to working for Lee County, Paul worked for the Connecticut Commission on Human Rights and Opportunities. Paul is a graduate of the University of Connecticut and Quinnipiac University Law School. He is licensed to practice law in Florida and Connecticut and is admitted before the United States Supreme Court. Equal Opportunity Coordinator Mark Esparza was born in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and came to the United States in 1984, where he attended the University of Colorado. After obtaining a degree in international affairs, Mark attended law school in New York City at New York Law School in 1990. After graduated from school and becoming a member of the Florida Bar in 1993, Mark then became a Florida Circuit Civil Certified Mediator in 2001. After working as an investigator for the city of St. Petersburg for 5 years, Mark moved to the county's Office of Human Rights, where he currently investigates claims of discrimination in housing, employment, and public accommodations. Both are returning guests, and we're happy to have them back. Paul and Mark, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Well, Paul, let's begin with you and have you start by telling us the role of the Human Rights Office of Human Rights and why it's important in Pinellas County.
Sure, and thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. So the Office of Human Rights really is the law enforcement agency for civil rights in Pinellas County. So if people believe they have experienced discrimination in any of three fields, either their employment, their housing, which we'll speak more of later, or in places of public accommodation, which would be like restaurants, hotels, grocery stores, commercial establishments that are generally open to the public. If someone believes they've experienced discrimination in their touchings or dealings in those realms, they could come to our office and file a complaint. And recently, we're proud that we've also been chosen to adopt and enforce the wage theft ordinance here in Pinellas County, too.
Good.
So on top of our anti-discrimination work, our office now also enforces wage theft claims throughout Pinellas County. So we have a pretty full inventory.
Wow, that is. Tell us how April became recognized as Fair Housing Month.
Sure. So most will remember from their history, the civil rights movement started in the 50s, gained steam throughout the 50s through the leadership of Dr. King, Rosa Parks, the Montgomery bus boycotts. And in 1964, the Civil Rights Act was passed at the federal level, but it didn't contain a fair housing component, and there was a continuous push for the same. And there was continuous opposition, as there had been for previous civil rights legislation, but particularly when it came to housing, the thought that a lot of people didn't want to be thought of having those people forced upon me and in my residence, as shameful as that thinking is. Well, the momentum built and the pressure built until, unfortunately, we all know in April of '68, Dr. King was assassinated. And there was a lot of upheaval as a result of that. And that provided the necessary impetus. Within several weeks' time, legislation that had been languishing for years, in a matter of weeks, got through both chambers of Congress to President Johnson's desk and signed in April of 1968. And that's why April is designated as Fair Housing Month.
Fascinating.
It is.
Wow.
So what kinds of fair housing cases do you receive, and how do you determine whether someone has, in fact, experienced discrimination?
Thank you for having me here today. Under the law, under the local ordinance, we have a wide spectrum of possible cases. And what's going to be protected under federal law and state law and local law is going to be race, color, religion, sex, gender, familial status, national origin, disability. And under local ordinance, we have sexual orientation and gender identity type protections. And so we get a smattering of complaints in all of those categories. But I would say that number one of our caseload right now, and has been for a while, is disability.
Wow.
Disability-related complaints here in Pinellas County. And I tend to think that most areas are going to reflect their local demographics, right? Whether you're from Montana, Denver, Texas, Connecticut, it's all going to be reflecting the different concerns of that one particular community. So here in Pinellas County is disability.
Wow.
It's a high number.
So that's what you'd say would be our most repeated issue, is the disability then?
Yes. For some reason, right now, it seems to be a hot topic of assistance animals. And that is persons using animals as medicine, whether it be a dog, cat, bird, rabbit, anything like that. If it's going to be a meaningful or measurable type of assistance to a person with a disability, it can be viewed as medicine, as a form of a remedy for the person.
Now, along those lines, can housing providers place any restrictions on an ESA or a service animal?
You know, the HUD takes the position that the animal can go where the person with a disability goes, just like a blind person with a service animal, right? They're going to go everywhere with that animal. They're going to go to the lunch line, to the common areas, and all that. Now, one of the restrictions that housing providers can put on animals is the basic restrictions that are allowable by law. The animal has to be vaccinated. It has to be licensed with animal control. The animal cannot be out of control. It can't be biting people. It can't be barking too much. It can't be a nuisance. And so these are normal restrictions. And typically, when a housing provider will approve an animal, what they'll do is that they'll want to record it, take a picture of the dog or somehow so that they know it's that one particular animal that they're granting that they're going to see in the common areas. And so you'll get those types of restrictions or requirements in the granting or approval of an animal. You'll see that kind of stuff. Now, one of the things that we have seen in the past that is not allowable is when housing providers want to restrict the animal totally. And you'll get those examples where the housing provider will tell the resident, you cannot walk your dog even in your own lot. Even in the common areas, you'll have to drive it out of the park. And we've seen it to that point where it's stifling. It's not really an accommodation. And it's more punitive in nature. And so we have to remind housing providers at times that when you approve the animal, there's going to have to be an allowance for them to be able to visit friends in other areas of the park. They're not going to be necessarily restricted only to the interior of their house.
That's a good point. And recently I've seen so many things on social media, everything from ducks to small horses, pigs, and going on planes. And it's, I've seen people interact with their animals, and it really is amazing the difference that the animals can make in a person's life. And I've also seen the reactions to other people, and that kind of gets into the area where you guys discuss, where they are just so appalled by, a duck, a service animal? Are you kidding me? But, as you see them holding and petting and calming, it's so different.
And particularly, I'm sorry, Mark, but particularly, oftentimes we'll see it in the context of persons with mental disabilities. You don't understand necessarily how that animal has the therapeutic effect on the person. We've had a case where there was the claim was that somebody with post-traumatic stress disorder benefited from the presence of chickens in the yard. I mean, she tended to them. It had an ameliorative effect for her. And so it's easy for people to maybe look at it from the outside and say, I don't understand what's going on. But until you're in that person's shoes and experience the benefit derived from the animal, it's really kind of hard for other people to second guess.
It is, and I think, too, sometimes people don't understand the nature of various disabilities. They can understand blind. They can understand paralysis. But when it comes to other things, I think it's very difficult for people to understand and take that into consideration. And even as housing providers, you have to understand it's not just a blind person or someone who's paralyzed. This is a wide spectrum of areas that they have to acknowledge and take into consideration in their housing.
A lot of times, you leave it up to the medical professionals to diagnose it and to recommend that the animal is going to be beneficial to a person.
Yeah.
And you will get pushback. You'll even get housing providers who will suggest other types of animals. Get a fish, get a bird.
You can't pet a little fishy if that's not what calms you down.
Yeah. And they might not be fish people, right? Might not be a cat person. It might be an actual dog that actually does it. And we've gotten notes where the doctors will write that that they're maxed out on medicines, that the animal is actually going to provide a better benefit for them than more medicine. So we'll go with the recommendation.
I was curious to know, is the rise in this because of more veterans, or have you noticed a trend of what?
I'm not quite sure if it's veterans, but it's a great point that you bring up, because we have seen a lot of returning soldiers with PTSD, and they're requesting animals. And I find it, they're coming back after providing a service for the country, and they're going to a housing provider to rent, and they're being told no. Or being, being portrayed as the game in the system. And so a lot of times the housing providers won't know. And so it takes an interactive dialogue to come in closer, to maybe get more information, to assess the request. But in the end, a lot of times we're able to settle the case or resolve the matter to the benefit of both parties.
Yep.
And so the soldier gets their animal, they get their piece, and they can move on.
Yeah, and to your earlier question, sometimes people assume that it's a license for anarchy. It really isn't. I mean, as Mark explained, there's limitations that a landlord or a housing provider, a condo association, homeowners association can impose. If the animal is a threat, if it's nipping at people, tripping people, they can address that. If it's a landlord-tenant situation, the animal causes damage, of course the tenant could be held liable for the damage caused by the animal. So it's not necessarily a license for anarchy. It's simply saying that this is a person with a disability who needs this animal to assist or aid in the treatment, therapy, amelioration of that disability.
My next question was something that was just mentioned. I know each case is different, But how long from start to finish usually does it take to investigate and then kind of bring a case to conclusion?
In fair housing, by statute, by law, HUD wants us to complete our investigations within 100 days. 100 days is the benchmark, and so roughly about 3 months it takes. Now, each case, it takes a little bit less or a little bit more time depending on how many respondents or defendants we have, the complexity of the issues, the participation of the parties, whether the witnesses are participating, whether people are sending documents in a timely manner, whether there's an insurance company involved. And so you'll have a lot of different issues. But for the most part, we're able to complete our investigations within 100 days in a timely fashion. And so we try to reduce any type of backlog and attack the matter as quickly as possible. One of the things we also do that I find very helpful, we offer mediation at the same time as we're doing the investigation. Same track, same time, but with a different personnel outside that's going to be handling the discussions. And so basically we're kind of cooking at the same time, doing two different parallel events to try to resolve the matter as quickly as possible.
That's interesting.
There's been a lot of news lately about the use of criminal background checks to screen applicants for employment. Are there similar developments as far as housing is concerned?
Yeah. Recently, HUD has been putting out more guidance in that whole area of criminal background checks, following the lead of the EEOC. And basically what they're saying is that, in a nutshell, criminal backgrounds is not a protected category, right? It's not a group by itself is going to be protected from law. So housing providers can use it. The only issue that comes up is two issues. One, are they actually using the same treatment based on the same crime for all applicants? That is, if you have a DUI, are you being excluded just like Johnny was excluded for a DUI? So we got to look at different treatment in that regard. But secondly, you look at a theory called disparate impact, in which if there's a particular rule that disproportionately impacts one group much more than another, that can also have or be deemed to be unlawful just because of the discriminatory impact that it has in the community. And so they look at criminal history in that regard. And what the whole thrust is they want people to use criminal histories kind of as a scalpel, in a sense, to use it for the justification at hand, not as a sledgehammer to say, if anybody with a criminal background, you can't rent. And I think they were saying, like in America, a high percentage of people have a criminal background. I mean, it's a huge number. And so if you had somebody say you can't rent an apartment or get a job because of the presence of a criminal background, it'd have a huge impact on a lot of working Americans. Wow. And so in a sense, it's a kind of area where they're trying to focus on to say, hey, be more responsible in the use of criminal background bans or prohibitions on employment and housing.
And in this regard, as with service and support animals, I think there's a lot of fear-mongering that goes on because people start automatically arguing, so you're saying you have to allow anybody in no matter what? No, that's not what's going on here. Imagine, on the one hand, somebody with a possessory crime, maybe while they were in school, a minor drug possession, clean record for the last 20 years, they're not likely to be a risk to a community if they're given housing. Contrary, if somebody just got arrested for breaking and entering 6 weeks ago, that's relevant, it's more timely. So it's not as if it's to say anybody with a background history of any nature, no matter how recent or far in the past it is, you have to let them in. That's not what's going on. It's a more common, as Mark said, it's more of instead of going at the operation with a cannon, we're going to go at it with a scalpel.
Well, and I would hope that would be the way it would be used, because like you said, there are a lot of people in this country that do have a criminal background from A to Z. And I read stories, even here in Pinellas County, about certain concentration of populations in what I consider to be substandard housing that are there simply because they had, a criminal background, couldn't rent an apartment. That concentration and those living conditions concern me far more than letting a person into an apartment. I mean, and yes, again, the scalpel has to be used. Like you said, if someone just got arrested for child abuse or something like that, I certainly wouldn't want them just to be in with a bunch of people with little children. But You have to use common sense, and I think it's definitely an area that's got to have some more education. Do you guys have any sort of education opportunities out there for these? I mean, not only just this subject, but the service animals for all of this. You go out into the community and have these
We
discussions?
do it all the time, and it's one of those very, very good cost-effective benefits that we like to offer to the public, and that is if boards or housing providers need us to go out to do a question and answer session, more than willing to do so. We work with the realtor community. We work with other organizations just to spread the word, because it's best to all be on the same page so there's less suffering, less people denied, or less people filing complaints. And that's the whole goal, is to get the gospel of the law out there so that everybody can understand what the law is. It's to their benefit to know.
Yeah, absolutely. And in addition, because April is Fair Housing Month, every April, our office is a member of the Tampa Bay Fair Housing Consortium. And every month, every April, we put on a Fair Housing Symposium. And because it's a Bay-wide consortium, one year it'll be on the Tampa side, one year it's here in Pinellas. This year we're lucky enough it's going to be on April 21st, which is, I believe, a Friday, and it's going to be at the Tampa Convention Center. We're actually expecting up to 300 people.
Wow.
We've got breakout sessions on all kinds of topics: criminal background checks, emotional and support animals and service animals, discriminatory lending, your zip code is your destiny in life outcomes, all kinds of relevant, and for landlords, for homeowners associations, condo board members, practical information about the Fair Housing Act and fair housing laws. And as I say, that's on April 21st, and folks could check on our website to see how they can register for that program. I think we keep it at $35. It's a full day's of fair housing training, hopefully including continuing legal education credits and lunch. So it's a great deal. And it's informative.
Your website is?
So our website is www.pinellascounty.org/human rights.
Wow.
Now, you just mentioned something that we had talked about prior to the show, which was the zip code and one's destiny. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure, and I'll let Mark chip in at any time. But so the concept is that there are so many life outcomes that you are directly related to, not just correlated, but there's a causality as to where your zip code is. So, for example, in King County, Washington, they looked at two zip codes right next to each other, physically bordering each other. And yet, the demographic information for the one, which was a little more upscale, showed higher earnings out of that zip code, longer life expectancies, lower incidences of uses of medical services. If I said this, higher educational attainment.
Yeah.
And yet these are folks literally living next to each other. And so, and in some of that derives to, okay, because of this zip code, you now go to these schools, which then feeds educational opportunities, which feeds professional or career opportunities down the road. The underlying point, though, is how remarkable where you come from can have strong and maybe even controlling influences on where you go.
Yeah, on your upward mobility. And that's it. And pursuant to that, the HUD did a study, and it was called MTO, Moving to Opportunity, where they gave out Section 8 vouchers. And Section 8 vouchers are where the persons with low income will use the voucher and go to a particular private landlord, right? And so what they ended up doing is that they told the participants, you cannot go to a high poverty census tract. You had to move to a low poverty census tract and use those vouchers. And they followed these persons. And they did a study maybe for about 5 years, thousands of people. And they expected to see a big, big difference, right, in educational attainment and income, and they didn't see it. Wow. But when they looked at the data again, they found out that it related to age, and that the younger you are to move into the higher or lower poverty census tracts, actually the higher the numbers went up. Your income went up by 30%. Your college participation was 27% higher for persons that moved around the age of 9, because that's where they had the data. And so if you moved before the age of 9, you're going to reap the benefits of the better census tract. But if you moved after that, the actual benefits went down.
Really?
Yeah, and it was kind of fascinating. So they're still looking at the causality and the factors of what the factors are for each of the types of census tracts that would actually promote that. But it has a measurable effect. It just does.
That's amazing to me. Amazing. I mean, in one respect, you think about it because you look, kind of a pet thing of mine is everybody talks about these, especially in the big areas, the underserved areas where they're poor, there's no jobs, there's no education, there's no infrastructure, there's no busing, no anything. And so I can really see it there. So then I would wonder, why couldn't that be used as a tool to target areas that these are the things they have to improve? Education, opportunity, transportation, the infrastructure. If you can see this as a direct connection, it should give you clear direction to make changes.
You know, that's very interesting because we were just doing a study on that analysis of impediments in Pinellas County, and they start going over some of the factors related to that. And actually, public planning these days is a science. They got it. They have it down. They have these areas where they call TIFs, right, where they'll get the tax money and put it back in that one geographically designed area, and they do it to promote more jobs. They'll give tax breaks for job creators, tax breaks for stores to come in to provide jobs, for transportation routes to be, and that's the whole goal, is to provide a greater opportunity, in a sense, to kind of beautify it and to make it better for all the citizens and to lift it up, in a sense. And they're doing it, and they do it. There's maybe about 18 such areas here in Pinellas County alone.
I'm glad they're looking at this more as a science, because this is something I think that here, I'm living here. I really see this so much every day, and I'm hoping that they really can start making some serious changes. I know I'm really thrilled about the Lillman CRA and some of the headway that's being made there. You know, we're working with the county on that and already making some great strides in that area. But got a long way to go and a lot of opportunity there, and it's really great to see these things happening.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because often the concept of the Fair Housing Act comes in rentals or sales, but it's actually a fairly broad encompassing. And I mention that because, to your earlier point with services, there's been litigation, for instance, where there's a pocket of African Americans in a community that aren't hooked up to municipal water, and it's as economical to hook them up as a pocket of white people. The folks who are white get hooked up, and the people of color never get hooked up to those municipal services until a law firm came along and said, you know what, that implicates the Fair Housing Act.
Exactly.
And so it's far more encompassing than, I mean, we don't typically see those issues, of course, but the sweep that it encompasses is actually fairly broad.
And it's just unimaginable to me sometimes. I mean, we were talking before the show about some of the discriminatory actions people take, as you were saying, perhaps subconsciously. And because I was saying, you know, I just can't imagine people wanting or thinking or doing those things. And it's all in how you're brought up and how you look at things. And maybe it is sometimes more of a subconscious thing. I'm always get my eyes open when we talk about this every time, and I learn every time we talk to you guys too. Because it is amazing to me that there's still so much going on in this day and time, and I just feel like we should have been beyond it by now.
Well, you know, I think it's the promise of opportunity in America, and it's just not lip service. We have laws for people to avail themselves. If they think that they've been treated unfairly in a economic transaction for a job, for housing, they're allowed to challenge that. And I tend to think that's part of the promise of opportunity. You know, I mean, without an enforcement system, it's just lip service, and
Exactly.
it's not be effective. And so, it's a good thing to have in any type of society, I believe, as a personal opinion.
And I know we're short on time, but I will say, too, we've had a conversation that's been interesting, but folks do need to know when we get complaints, we don't automatically assume that discrimination occurred. We're neutral. We're objective. In fact, far more, on a percentage basis, far more of our cases end up in a no cause determination than a cause determination. So we really are there to be objective. Look, if the facts are there and we believe discrimination exists, occurred, we'll say so. But if we just don't believe the facts or the law support such a finding, then we're going to say we don't see it. Sorry.
Well, if people did want to contact your office, how would they?
Well, we have a website. Telephone number 727-464-4880. We're located over here in downtown Clearwater, and so people can walk in. They can call us, set up an appointment, or just call us over the phone to talk about their case, and we'll send them the materials should they wish to avail themselves of the process. And so, we're wide open, you know.
Well, it seems like there's two gentlemen who have a lot of knowledge and can help a lot of people. We thank you for coming back to the show. Paul Valente and Marcus Barza with Pinellas County Office of Human Rights. You can hear us on WRXB 1590 AM and 96.5 FM. We look forward to having you join us next month. If you missed any part of the show or would like to view past shows, check out our website or catch us on YouTube. I'm Julian Hills.
I'm Carmen Lemberg.
Thanks for tuning in, and remember to make it a great day.